And hi, David. It's good to see you, man. Thank
We
you.
also have quorum, so you can get started whenever you're ready.
We have a quorum. Oh, Lowell came in and he has a haircut. Holy God. I don't pay for those. Let it grow, man. No humor there. Okay, move on.
I talked to my campaign consultants.
Looking
Yes,
good.
sir. All right, everybody, welcome. We will start. It is almost exactly on time. Please note that. We don't have a huge agenda, but we have some things to talk about. We are lucky to be able to do this, to continue doing this by Zoom, because the governor's exception to the open meetings law permits us to do it by Zoom and vote by Zoom. And as I understand it, and I'm also very happy to understand it, that there has been an extension with some changes. So we will be able to do Zoom meetings, either hybrid or not, at least for the next 60 days. And I'm also very, very glad to hear that. I know that Community Board 4, among staff, among others, have worked very hard to make that happen. And I for one, am not yet ready to be in large gatherings of people. There are others like me, even though the Times this morning reports that the second booster may or may not have good effect. I think that's the way I read that article. We took ours yesterday for whatever that's worth. And we have, I know there's a more formal way to say that we're doing this by Zoom and that it's kosher, but that's what I just said. The first item that we have is to talk about the park on 27th Street. I tried to share my screen, but I don't see that it is sharing. You don't see my screen, right?
Yeah, we can see it.
Oh, we do now.
I don't see it on mine, so
You got your whole desktop.
yeah, that isn't what I want to show you.
Yeah.
That's why I'm
Which
telling
one
you.
can I click onto, Marty? Which one can I?
Yeah, I'm trying to see what you're actually doing, Marty.
How's that?
Oh, beautiful.
You're getting there.
Those
Good
are
photo.
three images of the park that we're about to talk about. The fence, this whole area of the park is what's becoming a dog run. This fence, I don't have any idea why that's on. You get these?
Just cancel.
Well, Marty, why don't we tell people where this is in Penn South This is the Penn South.
The Penn South Playground. And I'm really trying to show it to you, friends. This Penn South Playground goes off in that direction with the basketball courts. I didn't take an image of that. This section is, you can see the coloring on the ground is the same. This is the new fence that was put up last weekend to permit dogs to not run away as you're going in, or to keep dogs in while you're in. And this is the section that we're going to be talking about. It is proposed as and Eric is going to talk about it a lot. We've received a number of letters opposing it. I had a conversation with Leslie earlier today. I was shocked, disappointed, dismayed, even angered, I would say, to understand that fences had gone up to delineate the dog run even before we had a chance to talk about it. I think that is really a snub of the community, whosever decision it was, that should not have happened. In any case, we're here to talk about the quote unquote trial period of this park that, to my observation, along this wall has no water. And I'm going to just unshare it now because machine is,
Marty, while you're fighting with your screen, I just want to, it's just so everyone's clear. This is called the Penn South Playground.
yes,
But
it is.
it is a New York City Parks Department
Look,
run park. It is not part of Penn South. Is that correct?
It is correct. Penn South has its own two parks that are pretty much open to the public. Um, and they're well used. There's a park for younger kids, and there's a. You're probably going to get my desktop now. How do you?
hey, Marty, may I make one suggestion?
Will you tell me how to turn this thing off, somebody?
Can we, since we're joined, if you don't mind me saying, we're joined by Eric Botcher, who is our council member. So I just want to thank Eric for coming today and joining us.
I was just about to give him the floor, actually.
Sorry, go ahead, Marty.
I promised I wouldn't say too much before I gave Eric the floor. He's got his own take on this and will tell us about the fence and whatever else. So I've had my say. Eric, would you have the floor? Thanks so much for coming. You know how I feel about this, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much, Marty, and thank you, Leslie, and the members of the committee. I'm actually really, really excited to be here and talk about this. Little bit of background. The Chelsea Waterside Dog Run closed in February for renovations through the early summer. And when that happened, our office, we got a lot of calls and emails from users of that dog run who rely on that dog run and don't have anywhere else to take their dog in the neighborhood. So we actually met with Hudson River Park with Marty and Leslie and Robert Atterbury and Maureen, I think, from Hudson River Park to try to find a temporary location in Hudson River Park. And there just wasn't one. We kind of combed over every area. There wasn't any place that could get stood up for a temporary dog run. So we kind of resigned ourselves to not having one. And in the meantime, people were having to take their dogs to Madison Square Park. About, gosh, has it been a month ago? We were doing a tour of the Parks and Community Board 4. My office, CB4, the Borough Commissioner, Bill Castro. And when we were in this park we're talking about, it occurred to me that if you just put up a fence, a particular part of this park could serve as a really great dog run for the time that the other one's closed. And I'm going to pull up the map. I'm going to do screen sharing on my end, kind of show folks what we're talking about here. Let's see if I can, okay, here we go.
Don't show us your desktop.
Yeah, I always get a little sweaty when it comes time to screen share. Is this coming through?
Yep.
Great.
The image in the middle of your screen is coming through. The map.
Great. So here's Chelsea, and here is the Penn South Playground, 26th Street, 25th Street. This is, can you see my cursor?
Yep.
This is the area here that we're talking about, and I'll show you the satellite view. You've got this concrete area here. This is the rest of the playground here. These are basketball courts, and this is play equipment. This is a church and a school and a convent. This is the power plant for Penn South. I'm gonna show you the area we're talking about from here. So this is the area we're talking about here. And then you can look south to see the, there's the Pinwheel Park playground. Now I love Google Maps so much. Now I'm gonna drop us here. And here's the playground from the north. And the fence would be over there to, this is the part we're talking about. So we have a bit of an opportunity here for a couple of reasons. Number one, we can provide a place for people to have their, bring their dogs during the closure of the Chelsea Waterside playground. And number two, this is an opportunity to test this out as a potential permanent location for the dog run. This location's actually been talked about for a dog run for like the last 7 years. And it's never really been, no one's really picked up the cause and ran with it. So it's just kind of stayed the way it is. This particular part of this park is underutilized. I walked through it, a lot of us walked through it on the walkway alongside it. For me, it's like the shortcut to my office. So I walk through it several times a day. And I've always felt that we need to do something with that space to activate it. I very rarely have seen anyone back there. For the next couple months, we have an opportunity to test this out and see if it works and regroup at the end. At the site visit, when we were looking at it with CB4, Bill Castro, the borough commissioner, said, sure, we can put up a fence there. We did some due diligence. I called the head of the school. I spoke to the COO of the school there and talked this through with her. She said that they didn't think it would adversely affect the kids. She told me that the kids really don't use that area. I actually asked her to check with the CEO just to be sure. And then she called me back and said, yes, we don't have a problem with it. Jordan in my office, spoke with the priest from the parish, who said it shouldn't be a problem. One thing they did tell us, which I didn't know, is that they're going to be leaving the parish. Both the school, the parish are going to be vacating that. That's a whole other thing for us to find out more about. But they even said we could use their water source. And they have a hose on their building next to the dog run that they said we could use. I went to the Penn South board meeting, and this was received very well. The board members said, let's try it and see if it works. The manager of Penn South wrote a letter to the Parks Department in favor of the trial. The Parks Department went ahead and put up the fence. I would have preferred they waited until like tomorrow, like the day after this, but they put it up last week, way faster than I've ever seen Parks do anything. No offense, Therese, you're amazing, but this was fast. So I was like, oh boy. And so it's too bad that they put it up before we had a chance to have this meeting. But what it did do is give us a few days to see it in action. And I got to tell you, walking through there, it just makes me so happy to see that space being used. Neighbors talking to each other, meeting each other. That was such a desolate area. And, you know, at night, I did not feel safe walking through there at night or in the early evening, because the hours being proposed for this are 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The Parks Department will open it at 8 a.m. and close at 8 p.m. It's been a really wonderful few days having it. I'm really looking forward to seeing how it works over the next couple months. The, I think it will work well. Some of the concerns we've heard about are noise, which I totally get. And the location for being in Penn South, it actually is one of the better places you could have it because it's tucked behind the power plant. So it's either building 3 or 4. It's almost all blocked by the power plant. Building 3, I believe it is on the south side of the street, is a good distance away. But again, let's see how it goes and let's monitor it closely together. Another concern that was raised was the smell. That's why it's important that this be well maintained. In our, I put up a social media post asking for people who would be interested in volunteering. We got a lot of volunteers who stepped forward, and they've, some of them are the volunteers from the Chelsea Waterside Park who are bringing over their expertise and their volunteers, because dog runs need an active volunteer corps to make sure that it's clean and well maintained. That's why the hose is important. Parks put in a bag dispenser, and there will be a trash can inside to make sure that people are using that and that the volunteers are bringing the doggy bags from that and putting them in the parks, the trash can that Parks empties out. I am excited about this idea for a trial because we rarely get an idea to like trial something or test something. Normally when we do something in parks, it's when a lot of money has been allocated to like invest in it and build it out permanently. So when you make a decision, that's like a permanent decision. And some of the biggest fights out there are over parks. Any use of public space in New York City, whether it's like the curbside or a lot or parks, there is going to be heated debate over how to use it. I think that this is a real great opportunity to activate what had been a pretty underutilized area. And in a place where we've gotten so many requests for dog runs, when I was running for city council, so many people said we need a dog run arena. We've had big problems with people letting their dogs run on the grass at Penn South. I see it on Facebook all the time, people fighting over, people's dogs running on the grass. So I think this could be a big, big win. That having been said, I want to make sure that this is like a community effort where we, over the next couple months, work closely together to see how this is working, meet frequently, and then revisit it at the end. And we'll achieve the goals of having a place for all the Chelsea dog owners to use while our neighborhood's other dog runs close, and see if this could work for the future. So I'm really excited about it. Looking forward to hearing what folks here tonight and the committee think about it. And really appreciate you letting me be here tonight.
Thank you, Eric. Open the floor to comments and questions. Let's start with Brad, then we'll go to Alan.
Hi, council member. This is Brad Pascarella. I'm glad we found a tent space. I think it's great. One thing this board has talked about, we want to keep it on our agenda, is actually educating dog owners on how to curb their dogs. Because frankly, we all live in the neighborhood, and I can't tell you enough how people are having their dogs go to the bathroom on front stoops, in front of doors, nothing on the curb. And we would like to maybe, now that you have their attention, to maybe try to get something out to them to help educate each other. We all love dogs, and I think it's a real problem. And now that we've kind of got something to help them, maybe they can help us.
I'm really happy you mentioned that. That's actually something that I'll be coming back to you about, because I, as a New Yorker, am really upset about all the dog owners who don't curb their dogs and don't pick up after their dogs. And the city seems to have fallen down on the enforcement of it. I actually spoke to the chief of staff of the sanitation department about the enforcement of it. So I'm going to have a lot more to say about that soon. And I really, really appreciate the Parks Committee here for talking about it, because it's one of those things that drives New Yorkers crazy, and they don't hear their leaders talking about it. They don't hear people in government talking about it. So stay tuned for that. I think while we have the dog owners here and the dog owners at these dog runs, I agree that presents an opportunity to communicate directly with them as well.
Hey, Eric, we wrote a letter about this. I don't know if it, I think you saw it. Actually, Brad was the one at the forefront of this, and then our committee wrote a letter on this, and we got a response from and our recommendation was if we could at least look into some sort of educational promotion, right? Like something funny, like Scoop the Poop or something that, like they used to do in the 80s and 90s. And Parks came back and said that they really had no plans for that. So if you can follow up with them on that, I know it's a little off topic right now. We're talking about the specific dog run, but since Brad brought it up and you're commenting on it, if you can follow up with Parks, since they said they don't have any necessarily plans for that, if you can do that, that would be great.
Yeah, thank you for that letter, Brad. You're going to be hearing a lot about this, and I've been thinking a lot. So Brad, why don't I give you a call, because this is something that I think we can do a lot on.
Yeah, Eric, it wasn't so much on the parks, and we were thinking, could we do a pilot program that gets social media feed, and then you've got the ear of the dog owners to help us. We had the enforcement team on, and that wasn't really something. They just kind of gave us stats and then who you reported to. I don't think we want to report on our neighbors. That's not what I think our board is looking for. We're just looking for a re-education of how we live together.
Totally.
In our neighborhoods. And I think we could get there. Like one dog talking to another dog going, really? Like something like that. Looking up at their owner.
Really fun idea. I think you'll like it.
I don't want the conversation to get too distracted on this. I have 3 board members who want to speak, and I have 5 members of the public who want to speak about the park. So the dog poop issue will not, I hope it will go away, but I don't think it will go away, and to be continued. Thank you, Brad. Alan.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Eric, and thank you, Parks, for jumping on this as quickly as you did. I think it's a great find, Eric. Very good. I'm a dog owner. My dogs have used Chelsea Waterside Park since before it was Chelsea Waterside Park. Unfortunately, they've gotten up in age and they can't really make it, even though it's only a couple of blocks away. We take some short walks. I sort of kind of like think about this scenario, because I'm sure there are a lot of people in Penn South who are up in arms over this. Lowell, I will bring my dog up in a minute. I'm sure there are a lot of folks who are up in arms, but I see this as something that occurred back in 2018, 2019, when Chelsea Waterside Park Children's Playground was closed, Clement Clark Park was closed, and parents and a lot of grandparents who took care of their grandchildren during the day were walking around trying to find a place, what to do. Heard a lot of, sighing and, oh, my kid just loves Clement Clark. When is it going to open? I don't know what to do, but that whole thing. So we're all under a lot of stress in different ways. And a lot of folks have turned to that cute thing over there in the screen as comfort, and they need a place also. Whether this becomes a permanent or whatever down the road, that's a whole different story, but we're only talking about a couple of months. My understanding from being on the advisory council of Hudson River Park Trust and updates on the construction, they're on track. So it's scheduled to reopen June, maybe July, hopefully June. They've had a great winter. They've got a great crew there. So we're not talking about a whole big deal. It's going to rain a lot. People may not use it as much. So let's not get really, board on this whole situation. And I think we'll find that, as Eric said, this is going to work out fine for everybody, for people in Penn South as well, who for many, many years had to hide their dogs underneath the blanket when they brought them in, until Penn South finally decided to say, maybe you deserve to have your dog out in the open, and not hiding in a closet somewhere. So thank you very much. I think this is going to be great. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Alan. I forgot to mention that the other part of this park that we're not talking about, I want to invest a lot of money in that park to bring it up to good condition. The basketball courts are cracked. The play equipment is very old and rarely used, because one block to the north, you have a beautiful playground by Penn South that's open to the public. And one block to the south, across the street, actually, you have Pinwheel Park, which is gorgeous. So this play equipment could be beautiful. And I want to, maybe even in this year's budget, try to get the admin, the mayor's administration, to put in some money. I envision a playground that's handicap accessible with accessible equipment. That's something that we don't have in our community, with like wheelchair swings and stuff. But I just wanted to add that outside of this area we're talking about, there's a lot of possibilities with the rest of the playground.
Thank you, Alan. I now have Lowell Kern.
Thank you, Marty. Eric, you beat me to it. I was going to mention that the rest of this playground has been on CB4's wish list for a long time. We had originally asked that some of the the EIS for block 675 and the High Line, there was supposed to be money that was put in. CB4 had asked that the money go into this particular park, and it was put into Chelsea Park instead. So this park has been neglected, and we've been asking for it. I'm going to channel our former colleague Brett Furfer and say that the basketball court needs to be redone and it needs better lighting. But in terms of the dog run itself, Cooper doesn't use the dog park. He gets bullied in the dog park, so he doesn't go in there. He's too mellow. But I have been asked, look, I'm not supposed to say anything on a board meeting, but you all know I'm out there talking to people for one reason or another. And I get asked about this a lot, especially when I'm with Cooper, is when is the dog park going to reopen, and is there someplace else we can use? So this is desperately needed by the community on the far west side in the 20s. And I'm grateful to Eric for making this happen.
Thank you. Tina, I think.
Yeah. So again, I think this is a really good pilot program, if you will. I mean, I know a lot of people have to bring their dogs all the way to Madison Square Park, which the dog run is also under construction. So it's a bit, unfortunate, the timing of it. So I think this, having a dog, my dog again is like yours, not one to be a part of community in a dog run because he's so old and senile and just bit me today. But I think that's a great idea. And also, you know, I live just down the street from this basketball court and playground, and it really does need a facelift. It is well used. There are a lot of pickup games in terms of basketball, and folks sit there and watch their sons, daughters, and so where it's really nice, but it does need a little more respect. And in terms of Brad's concern that he's voiced a few times, I have noticed an increase, even from when he began speaking about this, in dog poop being left on the sidewalks. It is incredible that this is happening. And I think what needs to happen is some re-education of people that have pets and dogs. Certainly it's not the animal's fault, it's the owner's fault. So one idea I think I expressed before would be really simple. You know how the those kiosks that we now have with the LED advertisements and notices, you know, they have notices for CB4 and the meetings. I think it's fantastic to make the populace aware that these meetings are happening and accessible to all. Why don't we just have something reminding dog owners what it's like to responsibly have a dog out on the sidewalk? Simple, graphic,
Yeah,
cheap,
Tina.
should be free. Anyway,
Great
that's-
idea.
David, go ahead.
Marty's on mute.
Yeah,
Marty,
Marty, it's okay. Marty, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you. David is indeed next. We're talking about, Tina just talked about dog waste. Let's keep it to the dog park. David.
I actually stopped by the dog run today and, paid attention to the noise level. I'm very sensitive to noise myself. It didn't seem terribly loud. There were maybe 4 or 5 dog owners in there, and there was one dog that was occasionally barking. It didn't make me want to jump out a window like when my neighbor across the hall would leave for work and her dog would bark continuously all day until she came back. It's not that level of noise. But I think the only thing that might be objectionable to neighbors would be the noise. And as Eric pointed out, it is in kind of a narrow slot between a couple of blank walls. And much of the space around it is other playground space or the parking lot across 26th Street. So, the only concern I might have is that some people who live in Penn South would be disturbed by the noise, which might begin as early as 8 a.m. So I'd be interested in hearing from them.
Thank you, David. Leslie?
Hi, thank you, Eric, for that. I was on that Parks walk with you guys when you were talking about having the temporary dog park. I just have a few questions. Did you say you met with the Penn, or you talked with the Penn South board?
Yes.
And they said it, and they gave you kind of a stamp
Yeah.
of approval, or not yet?
Yeah, they didn't take a vote, but no one thought we shouldn't do it.
Okay. My next
They
question.
directed the management to send a letter.
Okay. So my next question is, this is a pilot program, but what is that based on? Meaning, like, what is going to determine whether it's full-time or not? Are you saying definitely when the Chelsea Waterside goes back up, this is going to be taken down, or that might not be the case? What are your determining factors?
I think we need to decide together how that works. It's not my decision alone, obviously. I want to consult with all of you about how do we have another meeting like this? Do we have a meeting there? Should we meet like every couple weeks during this trial and decide at the end what the community wants to do? This is an opportunity that I want to offer the community, and whatever the community would like, what the criteria are and what the data points are. I'm not, I kind of defer to you on what we decide on.
And then from the pictures Marty showed, there's that exit point or entrance point on the south side. So what is that now? That exit or entrance is just a really narrow lane, I'm guessing, to get to the rest of the park?
No, it's blocked. There's a
You
fence
can't get in
blocking.
or out?
You can only enter the dog park from the south. You cannot enter the park in that way.
Oh,
Right.
no.
The fence
So
on the
that
north
whole
side of
entrance
the
is cut off?
fence on the north side of the dog park is entire. There's no way through it unless you go over it, which is not convenient.
Right, so it's now two distinct spaces. You enter the playground from 26th Street and you enter the dog park from 25th Street. So there's no intermingling. One of the concerns early on was that you'd have dogs and play equipment. Like they don't make a good mix. So one of the other serendipitous things is that this has its like a totally unique entrance. It's not like people are walking through.
No, I understand that, but usually with dog runs, there's still a fenced off area, but I thought there was a little strip where you can exit out of or enter out of the south side.
North side.
Like,
Yes, the south
no,
side.
the south side.
You can enter and exit in the north and the south side. You cannot enter and exit on the north side.
No, the park, not the dog run, the park I'm talking about. Because when I would take Cecilia and we would cut through, we would play and then cut through. And now you can't leave the
That is
south
correct.
side.
That
Right.
is
Okay.
correct.
Go through, right.
You can't go through. Okay, that's maybe something we can discuss.
Yeah, when this park is redesigned, when we get the funding, maybe that includes putting another entrance on the south end of that playground, right? That's if we keep going with this. I think that's a really interesting idea that I hadn't even thought about.
And then my next point was what Lowell said, to follow up what Lowell said, is this park has been on our statement of district needs, specifically the basketball court, as you know. So just that a reminder. And also, we do have a regular statement of district needs that includes refurbishing some dog parks already. So please don't forget about those, because those have been on our list, and one is in DeWitt Clinton. I'm just saying, I know you have these.
I'll give you an early preview. I am going to fund the DeWitt Clinton dog. It was
With PB?
I can't give away the results of PB yet.
I guess it's PB
That
then,
will
if you're
be-
gonna.
I'm going to fund that either way, because I was there and the surface is rough on the
Yeah.
little paws.
Right. Well, it's the same as it's going to be the same as this. So you might have the same problem here if this continues. But yes, thank you so much. And I'm glad that piece of news is right here and you let us know that,
Yeah,
because
we
we
need
have been
some
fighting for
headlines.
that for a long while. So I appreciate it. And my last thing, though my day just got a lot brighter, my last thing is I am really disappointed in Parks here, only because, and I'm not going to blame Eric or his office for this, but we wanted to do this or talk about this before it went up. And, we're finding we're finding the stuff that's going on in our next point, the McCaffrey playground. There's a lot of things that we would hope that Parks would come to us first, at least to discuss, even if it's in the works, just to talk about. But we're seeing the opposite a little bit, but we can save that for the Parks discussion. But we have, Marty, I don't know if you want to handle this part, but we have over a dozen people with their hands up in the
We
public.
do. We have 13 people with their hands up. Permit me to make one brief statement of my own, and then we'll go to the public. And that is that in park renovations in other locations, this committee has had the privilege of looking at the entire design. There has been no alternative suggestions, design, thinking about this space. It's just gone straight to a dog run. I think that's exactly the wrong process. We should have had a much deeper discussion about what this space would be used for or could be used for. And so I think we are going, not only has Parks jumped the gun by saying it's going to be a dog run, they put in the fence, we haven't had any words to say about what its alternative uses might be. That said, Evelyn Santiago,
Real quick on that point.
hold on, Eric. Evelyn, please mute yourself. And then we're going to go to the public after Eric makes his statements. Santiago.
I think, Marty, to your point, at the end of this couple months, that should be part of the decision-making process. If you know, whether this works or not, is there something else that this space could be used for? I, over the years, have sort of racked my brain for it, and I can't really think of what else this hidden away narrow space would be used for, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't brainstorm that. I think that should be part of the, you know, and maybe between now and June, folks could think of other things to, I can't think of anything that would be a higher and best use, but that doesn't mean that there isn't. So let's have that conversation too.
Thank you, Eric. Ladies and gentlemen, there are now 10 people with their hands up from the public. Janine, if you would help me move them through from top to bottom as quickly as possible. And let's keep time, folks. We don't want the meeting to go on till tomorrow. So we're going to, if it's all right with everybody, impose a 2-minute rule on members of the public, please. And if somebody before you has said what you want to say, please say that person said what I want to say. I'm repeating it. Thank you very much. And just let it go at that. And the first person I see is Andrea Berkeley.
Well, I moved over Daryl, Evelyn, and Matthew first, and then I'll continue moving them in order.
So then let's go with Daryl.
Hi, everyone. My name is Daryl. I live on 23rd and 9th. I've been a resident of Chelsea for the past 35 years. The dog park is actually an excellent idea. I've been using the previous dog park daily, and all my friends were looking for an alternative. So thank you, council member. It really, really helps us a lot. I do also want to speak to the fact that I will be volunteering. I have a bunch of friends who will be volunteering. We're used to cleaning up the park. We're used to watering down the park. We can certainly do that here. So we're on the list. I heard someone talk about adding another entrance on the north side. I actually don't think that's a good idea, because when you have a dog park, it's actually better just to have one entrance for security's sake, in that sometimes if your dogs run around, it's hard to keep track of dogs when there are two entrances. So I would say no for the extra adding to the entrance. Plus, you don't also want dogs walking through the park. You want that as a clean area for the kids. So I think we should just keep the entrance the way it is right now. It's ideal. I guess my final words are that, I and my friends would do whatever it takes to support the park. I think it's a great addition to the neighborhood. It's definitely needed. And thank you all for making it happen.
Marty, just to address what he said, I just want to make a clarifying remark. Since I'm an frequent dog park person, we were talking about an entrance, not a second entrance to the dog park itself, but an entrance for people to come into the side of the park. Just so you know, I know what you mean. Not another set of double doors. It's just for pedestrians and park goers outside of the confines of the dog run.
Okay.
Thank you.
Janine, who's the next one, please?
Evelyn, and then Matthew.
Hi, I've walked through there quite often to visit a friend on the other side of Penn South, and in the warmer months, I have seen that strip used a lot. I have seen kids playing on the hopscotches. I have seen birthday parties in the park where the kids run up and down that stretch. It's a stretch that gives them the ability to run back and forth that's now been cut off, where they have to run circular around the play gym. I also think that it was assessed as barely used in the winter, not in the warmer months. I think if people go there and start counting families and children in the warmer weather, they'll see something different. Also, I was just speaking with someone who lives across the street today on one of the Facebook pages on 25th Street, and it's not as far as the councilman thinks. He says he can hear persistent dog barking even with his windows closed, and many people are working from home now. It is a problem, and he said he was going to be emailing the councilman about that, but I just want to bring it out. It's in a residential area, and the noise is going to drift. That's about it.
Thank you, Evelyn. Next is Matt. Is that right?
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, I wrote to the former head of the Penn South Board of Directors years ago, Morris Benjamin, proposing this exact same idea to have a dog run in that exact location because the Penn South powerhouse emits a low-level hum continually, so that helps to drown out any kind of potential dog barking. Also, I would have to disagree with Evelyn. I think that playground is woefully underutilized winter, summer, spring, and fall because most families in the neighborhood love the two Penn South playgrounds. So they go there instead. Also, Morris Benjamin had told me years ago that when Penn South was first built, the Penn South playground was actually part of Penn South property, but in the 1960s, the Parks Department requested it be returned to the city, and so it was. I'd like to make a little whisper, maybe it would be nice if Penn South ran it again. It could be just as beautiful as the two Penn South playgrounds that we already have. I also have volunteered to help support the dog run, to hose it down, to pick up poop. I think it would be a great addition to the neighborhood. One of the realities is that the two dog runs that currently exist in Madison Square Park and Chelsea Waterside Park, they're quite a hike. So you really need to take about an hour out of your day if you're going to walk there and back if you live 8th or 9th or 7th Avenue, and then get back home and give your dog a chance to run around. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity to utilize that space. I think most people know that that playground is often a magnet for people sleeping on the benches, and as it gets towards evening, a little bit scary, as has been mentioned. I would also just like to suggest, this might be really a pie in the sky here, but Vesuvio Playground in the West Village actually has a swimming pool. So if we're thinking about some kind of future renovation for the larger part of the playground, that might be a wonderful idea. Not the basketball and volleyball area, which is very popular, especially in the summertime. People actually double park their cars and have cookouts there. But the part of the playground that's supposed to be for children that is almost never, ever used by children. Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
That's a
Matthew.
very cool idea.
And I think the use of that park will change very largely after a careful redesign of it is done, but that's also a wait and see thing. The next person I have on my list, the three are Andrea, Audrey, and Bruce. Andrea, can we bring them over?
I'll bring Andrew over, but I had brought over Stephanie, Michelle, and Luana.
You should tell me who you've brought over so we don't have to waste time, all right? Let's do it. Okay.
You can start with Stephanie and then Michelle.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Seiden. I live in Building 5 of Penn South. It's on the corner of 25th Street and 9th Avenue. So it's just, like a half a block from where we live. I have a beautiful dog named Milo that lots of people know. He's a golden retriever and super friendly. And I'm very excited that that we have an opportunity to use this space as a dog run. I would agree with what other people have already said, that it's, rarely used other than as a pass-through or for loitering. It is, I think, a perfect location in that doesn't butt straight up against other buildings where people have apartments. But I think the best part of it to me is that it's community building. Any place where we can gather with our neighbors and spend time together and get to know each other. That's already a very big part of just living in Penn South alone. But just in the week that it's been open, I've already met new neighbors that I hadn't met before. Some of them live in Penn South. Some of them are from other parts of Chelsea. And everybody that I've talked to about it is just thrilled that this is now becoming a reality for us. The one thing I would also want to add just about timing is that, they've put in the effort to put up a fence and give it a chance. And I would hate to see them put a lock on it the minute that the other dog runs are up and running again. Let's give this the chance it deserves to see if it works. Before suggesting we take it down. Certainly through the warm weather months, before the winter sets in, I think would be great. And then I also just want to address before I end, because I know there's a lot of people that need to talk, Leslie Murphy, I think it was, asked about the entrance and the pass-through. I just want to remind everybody that there is this alleyway that runs from 25th Street to 26th Street between the dog run and the park and the power station. And so even though the park itself is not a pass-through anymore because there's a fence, closed off fence, that alleyway that runs alongside, between the power station and the park can still be used. Nothing
Thank
changed.
you.
So there's no need to walk all the way around the block to get to 26th Street if that's where you're headed.
That's an important point. Thank you, Stephanie.
Sure. I guess that's really it. Nothing else I would say that other people haven't said other than just to reiterate.
Let's go to the next speaker. Let's go to the next speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you. Janine?
Hi. I just want to say that I live at the Chelsea Hotel. Just discovered that park this week, and it was so thrilling. I mean, I'm equidistant from Madison Square to the river, and I agree with everything Stephanie was saying, basically. And I did meet people. It's kind of intimate because it has walls. And the trees are there. I'm a little worried about those being peed on. The benches are nice. And it lacks water, but it's wonderful. My dog loves it. And also, I wanted to bring some WD-40 for that fence. It's really hard to open both of those things on the things. That's it. So I hope it stays. I hope it's permanent. It's great for older people. You don't have to walk all the way on either side. You can just go there. So thank you, Eric, and thanks everybody. Yeah.
Thank you for your input.
Thank you.
Luana is next.
Janine?
Luana Green.
Yes, thank you. I heard you. Thank you, everyone. Good evening, everyone. My name is Luana Green, and I live in Penn South. I'm building 8 on 27th Street and 8th Avenue. And I don't often disagree with Eric and his plan, but I do have to disagree with this plan. I disagree that there's no one that's playing in that park or using that park. There are students that come there in the afternoon to have lunch. There are people playing with their very young children there early in the morning and the early afternoon. There are young men and young teenagers playing basketball during the day. There are soccer teams and tennis teams playing during the weekend. So that park is highly active. In addition, that area is very high traffic. Many of the dog parks that exist don't exist close to residential areas. They exist somewhat away from the residential areas. I disagree that the noise would not be disturbing to the tenants because of the power plant. I doubt that very much. I live outside here at Penn South facing the yards out here, and I see the dogs running all over, and I understand that people need a place for the dogs to run. I get that, but I feel that, guys making decisions, it disturbs me a bit because Penn South has been inundated with several decisions that have been made around this area that has affected us, and we have no input into what's going on. So I suggest that you all have a town hall meeting. I'm willing to submit to the majority rule plan that if everyone agrees and the majority rules that this is something that we should engage in, then yes, I'm all for that. In addition, like I said, most dog parks are not near the residential areas. And I think that with the demolition of Building 5 over here and the new development, which is going to take at least 2 to 3 years, we need another place for the children to go. So that park should not be eliminated or separated. In addition, that area is a high traffic area. There are several schools in the area and people are going back and forth all day long. So in addition to meeting all these different dogs in the area, which can cause some kind of accident or something with the high traffic that is going forth, I think it should be reconsidered. Like I said, most of the dog parks are outside of the areas of the residents. So that's my opinion. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Luana.
Just a quick point of clarification. That is a very highly used playground with the basketball court and the area next to the basketball court. The alleyway we're talking about isn't. But people eating lunch over there and using the basketball court, absolutely.
Janine?
Next is Andrea.
Hi, my name is Andrea Berkey. I live on 17th and 8th. And you've got a sort of side view of Gibby here. She's a pandemic puppy. And we've really struggled in this part of the community to find areas where our dogs can run off leash because we don't have any parks where there's off leash space. It is, as was mentioned before, sort of equidistant between Union Square, Madison Square, and the Waterside Playground. And I and many other dog owners in this particular area have really had ongoing conversations about the fact that there's really nowhere good for us to take our dogs in the morning when we don't really have time to travel very far before we have to get back and start getting ready for the day. I can say the last time that I tried to make the longer trek over to Union Square, I was assaulted by a gentleman. And I don't do that anymore. And it would be, having discovered this park at 25th earlier this week is such a wonderful thing because it's something that we can make it to without it being too far a trek. This area really is in need of something that's not quite so far as all those other dog parks. It's been sort of a desert for us. And there's been sort of a group of dog owners, especially as ownership has increased because of the pandemic, where we sort of bounced from place to place where we're really not supposed to be with off-leash dogs because we just can't make it to those other spaces. And the dogs do need an opportunity to run around. So I just want to say thank you very much for putting this out as a trial. I understand that wherever you put something new like this, you're going to have concerns and complaints from the community. Everybody's going to have concerns about the noise, no matter where something goes, no matter how close it is to residential space. And so if there's going to be if a space like this is going to be provided, those are complaints from the community that I think you're going to run into regardless of location. And so the question is, do you deal with that anyway, or do you stop the, do you continue with the inconvenience for the dog owners that they have to go further or keep their dogs off leash, on leash? So I appreciate your time and I will sign off with that.
Thank you for your input. Janine, who's next?
Eric is next.
And then I want to, after Eric, I want to go to Sally, who's a committee member and has her hand up.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Eric. I live in Penn South. I've lived here for about 4 years. I just wanted to address a couple quick things. I have 2 dogs right now. I wanted to address this sort of discussion about noise and smell. I live on the first floor of 8B, which is on 28th and 8th Avenue, across the street from Penn Station. I've had to work from home the last 2 years, so I have a lot of empathy for people that hear things outside of their windows because we are constantly bombarded with the city. We live in a city. We hear city noises, we smell city smells, people selling things, smoking things, and yes, lots and lots of dogs and lots of disruption from people that are not behaving with dogs that aren't behaving. I have myself yelled out of the window at other dog owners, you know, pick that up and this is private property, all these, I sound crazy. And when I heard about the dog park, which I actually just stumbled upon, I got really excited because, as has been mentioned repeatedly, this entire neighborhood is littered with feces. It's disgusting on the sidewalks. And a lot of that is because people get lazy, they don't have a bag, or they don't have a place where they can run their dog in, and they see somebody else left a mess and they kind of just do the same thing. And now this will give me a reason to say, hey, go to the dog park. There's a place right down the street where you can bring your dog. I think this is a great sign for the community. I couldn't agree more with some of the other people who spoke, who said what a wonderful, unique place Penn South is. When we have a problem with something in the community, people will say something to you, clean up after your dog, don't move over there. That will continue, that should continue. People have yelled at me about my dogs. But it's nice to know that there's a place to go. And I personally, just like others, I already signed up to volunteer. I'll pull out the hose, whatever you need. I just think it's a great opportunity to just make the community a lot tighter in a space that is, as quiet as I think you're gonna get. But my biggest theme is we live in a city. You're not gonna avoid any dog barking or smells. It's just it's a little bit of the life here. And it's something that I've had to get used to myself as a New Yorker for the past 15 years. That's all I'll say on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. We need to integrate you into our dog poop removal program. The next person is Janine.
You said Sally would go next, and then after Sally was Kelly.
I'm not going to time Sally.
No, that's okay. I'll only be a minute. I think part of this whole discussion is about process. A lot of people seem to be upset about how this came to be without community input. To me, it seems that with Waterside closing, this was a natural. This is a test. I mean, this is not permanent. Eric has said more than once, this is a pilot program and a test. It's a question of process and horse before the cart. When do you have the community discussion? I think, to me, it seems having a trial and having people live with it and without it is the time that the community comes together and decides the pros and the cons. This isn't a forever thing. I'm not sure what other choices there would have been with Waterside closed. This was an incredible opportunity to try something else for a short period of time. And then we have these kinds of discussions and figure it all out. But again, there seems to be, that seems to be part of the problem, is that people would have liked to have the input before we jump to the trial. Eric did mention, I'm still not clear, that he did see the board members of Penn South, and they did not have a negative. They felt it was okay to try it. And that's the place we're in. We're trying it. If it doesn't work and more people hate it than like it, it may not become permanent. But at least the feeling that I'm getting from this little group of people is that people love it and it is needed, maybe even after Waterside opens, maybe not. That's it.
Thank you, Sally.
Kelly's next. I don't see her on. I'm bringing Karen over.
The next person is
Karen.
Karen. You're muted, Karen. It works much better without the mute. There you go.
Okay, so couple things. I heard a request for somebody who lives in building 7. That would be me. I've lived here for 50 years. I see the playground every day. I am woken up by dogs in the playground almost every day. They use the basketball courts. Now I've got multiple dogs in the other park. I stopped calling the Parks Department because I couldn't get them to do anything about it. I mean, the sign says no dogs. That didn't matter. I'm concerned that Chelsea Park isn't being considered. It's a much, much larger area, and a significant portion of it has been taken over by homeless people. I worked on the project with the census looking for homeless people. I walk down that block when I go to Whole Foods. That park is huge. It goes from 9th Avenue to 10th Avenue, and most of it does not abut any building where people live. The idea that building 7A does not hear the dogs because it's a block away is wrong. It's an empty space. It actually gets louder as it comes through the alleyway and up here. I have lived in this apartment for over 50 years. Another thing that was said that seems to be wrong is that the basketball courts are used by kids. Well, they are during the week, but on weekends, it's used by adults who drive here. I don't know why. I don't really care. People having fun, that's fine by me. I have the playground, the children's playground right outside of our building too. I have construction on 23rd Street. I have them doing the building siding and the building roof all day, every day. The people who are building that Target, they don't care about what time of day it is, 7:30 in the morning, jackhammers. And it's just a cacophony right here. And now we're, and next year we're going to have building commercial 5 taken down. It's going to be a whole nother palaver. But, since the lady from building 5 thinks it's so great, there's a lot of empty space next to building 5, a much bigger space, and it's grass. Why don't you put the dogs there? Or how about between 9 and 10? And the other thing is that you may have
Karen,
discussed this with
we're talking about
you
a
may have
city
discussed this
property.
with the board, but you did not bring it to the co-op council. We are the people that live here. Now, I know the couple of board members live in this building. They live in the middle. They don't hear the noise from here. I hear the noise from here. And if it had been brought to us, I don't mind it as a temporary thing, but I felt really blindsided by the post that said it was going to be made permanent. No offense. I'm sure all of your dogs are really lovely. I really enjoy the poop that I find on the path to the children's playground every day. And I watch people walking their dog
Good
next
points,
to the
Karen.
children's
Good
playground.
points. I need to ask you to end. We got your points and appreciate your input.
Well, honestly,
we need to go to the next.
You need to hear from somebody who actually gets the noise from the park, Martin. And cutting me off is pretty much what's been going on here all the time. It's not it's a very biased group of people. You keep bringing up the dogs. I think you should look at Chelsea Park.
Thank you very much. You made some important points.
I hope so. Thank you.
Audrey's next.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having all of us today. I understand Karen's point. I lived across from the new park on 20th between 6th and 7th Chelsea Green. And I was on that committee or volunteer committee. And it did change. It's not a dog park, but I never thought, kids would upset people. But some of the people in my building that faced that park felt like all of a sudden their whole quality of life changed. They heard kids after school. I think that's a great sound. I'm a mom. Maybe it's different, but I would have never seen that coming. So I understand how something, outside that changes can really impact your lifestyle. But I'm also with what Eric said. We're in the city. You're going to have construction. You're going to have, every building I move to seems to have a new local law 11 pointing. That seems to happen every 5 minutes everywhere I go. So in terms of the dog park, I meandered over there after I'm on the volunteer committee with Eric's office and Eric and Jordan. And I went over there with my dog and everybody was so excited. We were very surprised to see the fences up already, but one of the dogs was really barky and I was really worried. I was like, oh my gosh, this dog is going to get us in trouble basically. And the trial is going to be over. And I said to the guy, this is a trial. So we're really going to try to be very conscious of our neighbors and really do this as a community effort. And the guy was so understanding. He's like, I'm really trying. And he got his dog to quiet down and he was really great. And we were all chatting. And I think if we put some signage up and we just appeal to each other as humans and neighbors and say, hey, we're here at the graciousness of our neighbors. And let's all, work on this and please volunteer and please pick up after your dog. And I think the same thing on the pick up the poop committee that you guys were talking about, appeal to us as humans. We're all New Yorkers, we live here together. And I think this is a great idea. I love that it's a trial because I think it was Sally that said, it's a very polarizing idea. So without a trial, we wouldn't have the data. Maybe everyone complains and we realize, oh, we tried, it was a really bad idea. I think the trial is great and let us, hopefully let us be our best and hopefully we pleasantly surprise people. So thanks everybody.
Thank you, Audrey.
Next is Bruce.
Who's next, please?
Sorry, Bruce.
Can you hear me?
Bruce Miller.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'll be quick, and I have one or two things I want to add that hasn't been mentioned. First, thank you for inviting me to the meeting. Thank you, Eric. Lifelong New Yorker, 35 years in the financial services industry. I live in West Chelsea. I got a dog when I tried to reinvent myself. It's changed my life. Like many people's lives have been changed. The dog park, and I can't thank everyone enough for this quick action. I look at it maybe as a layman as wow, the government and the community boards moved so quickly for a real need that we had. Because if you don't exercise your dog, then they have bad behavior. And I've seen dogs jump on elderly people, even when they're on a leash with a dog walker or something. So we really have to mind that dogs need to be exercised, and dogs are an essential part of our city. So a dog park is not just something that we should be talking about as a luxury, but it's something that's really necessary for us to have. And I think it's terrific, and I appreciate it, and I understand. I feel like I'm at my condo board meeting where everyone has different competing interests. So I understand other people's point of views, and hopefully we can get to a spot where we see that it works. But I want to thank Eric and everyone for making this happen so quickly. Two things that I'd like to bring up that haven't been mentioned. On the dog poop issue and issues with people not caring, I notice it, and I've had a dog now for 4 years in New York. Dog walkers are very often the violators of that. They move very quickly. They don't take ownership. And I've made a large point lately in this dog park, actually, saying, hey, you have 3 dogs on your leash. I can tell you don't own them. So one of the things I suggest is we do a campaign.
30 seconds, Bruce.
Okay, we do a campaign targeting dog walkers. There are many apps. We could put a service message on the apps. I think that'd be very helpful. Final thing I would say, and I just say this gently, this is something for people without a lot of money and privilege. I can afford, I'll say this, to bring my dog to doggy daycare, which was my first reaction when this dog park closed, so my dog would get exercise. But a lot of my friends don't have that financial ability to bring their dog to doggy daycare. So I brought my dog to Dog City. Oh my God, the dog park's closing. So I really think you have to look at this, that not everyone has the financial resources to do what all of us can do. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you for being conscious of time, Bruce. Appreciate your points.
Peter?
Peter.
Hi, I'm Peter Paris, a 23-year resident of Chelsea. I live at 23rd and 8th, and I'm very mindful of noise. However, I'm also a big dog owner, and I am very much pro dog runs. I would suggest that, and I think the next step that should be taken in this process is for a sign, some sort of sign or posting to put up on the dog run that says this is a temporary dog run until the Riverside is open, or something to that effect, just so people know exactly what it is. Right now, no one knows what it is. And then the other thing is, along with that signage, be a point of contact where the community can reach out and and leave their messages or emails to the committee and to the council member's office, so that we get some sort of feedback. Additionally, there will need, I believe it was Leslie's point, some metrics on what we're trying to find. Whether people just like it or not is not exactly that helpful. How much do they use it? Who are they? Or not who are they, but are there economic factors, et cetera? So that was what I would love to see happen. Personally, I would love to see it become a permanent space, but I think it's a good opportunity to go through a process, as a temporary space that will also take into account the community's feedback. Additionally, on dog poop issues, you have Bite Week moving into the neighborhood as a new partner. So that might be a good place to start in some cooperative relationships. Thanks.
Thanks for being conscious of time, Peter.
Carrie's next.
Carrie, you're on mute.
Sorry. Hi. I'm a longtime resident of West Chelsea. I've been using the Waterside Dog Park for 20 years. And when the dog closed, I was pretty distraught because I have active dogs that need exercise, and we've all been cooped up in this apartment for 2 years. So I'm just incredibly thankful that you guys have really considered the dog's needs. They're residents like all of us, and they deserve quality of life. And this is amazing. And I'm willing to contribute however I can, just like some other people said. I'm really happy to see that people are being a community and are willing to help. And I am. So I'm thankful, and I will help however I can. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being conscious of time. I appreciate it. Thank you for your points.
Courtney is next.
Courtney.
Yes, hi there. Thanks for hosting this today. So I'm a resident of Chelsea. I've been in the neighborhood for about 5 years now. And since this dog park has opened, I've been there with my dog, who's an Australian Shepherd. He's super active twice a day. So the first thing is the park will definitely not go unused by the dog community. Every day that we've been there, there's been at least 5 other dogs there who are all very lovely, very behaved, and had very kind owners too. So definitely it's good for the community. More people can meet and engage with each other. One thing that I noticed also is that there's people who aren't even dog owners, and we're just enjoying the benefits of the park, which is really nice. I was speaking to one lady, and she mentioned like she didn't even have a dog. She was just there, and she was so excited about that. So I know on this call, there's a lot of representation from dog owners. There's a lot of representation for people who are not thrilled about the park, but there's also a lot of people out there who are not speaking up, but they are just happy for it to be there. The other thing is that it's really nice to have a park in this part of town. We're kind of at the crossroad now where a lot of people are going back to the office and a lot of people are staying at home. If you're staying at home, it's really nice to be able to just go out in the middle of the day, even for 15 minutes, and not worry about getting back to your desk so fast. Something that's happened in the pandemic through work from home is that there's, a lot of stress and a lot of mental health issues around work. So to be able to do that and not have to worry is really nice. And then for those who do go to the office, to be able to have a nice amount of time and still make it to your desk without having to go all the way east or all the way west, it's great. And I'm happy to volunteer my time anywhere needed. I'm really grateful that this park is here, and I hope that it lasts. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you for your points, Courtney, and thank you also for being conscious of time. How many more do we have, Janine? I see 2 on my list. I don't know how many you brought over.
Yeah, there's 2, and then I brought 3 more over. So next is Susan.
Hi, my name is Susan Wallet. I live in Penn South. I face that, I could take a picture of that dog park from my window. I'm on a high floor. I also face the playground. I have never, ever had a problem with the noise from the children, and I'm not a mother. I still find it, I don't even notice it. However, now that the weather has gotten warmer for a couple of days, this morning, the dogs woke me up. So I am basically saying, I think the hours for a residential community should be reconsidered. It should not be at 8 o'clock in the morning. There's a lot of retirees here. People don't get up at 8 o'clock in the morning on the weekends. Nobody wants to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning. As I said, I don't have children, so I cannot, but on the Penn South website, our playgrounds open at 9. But the kids never bothered me. The dogs can be a bother. It can be very, very loud. And asking, some people are going to be considerate, I know, but there are others that just really don't care. So I really think the hours should be reconsidered because it's residential. 10 a.m. Some of us like to sleep later than that, but I'm trying to make a reasonable request. I also wanted to say that Penn South residents were not asked. Maybe you asked the board and you asked the management, but nobody asked me what I thought. There was discussion on Facebook, but there was no official asking people. And if you're going to ask the people and leave information at the park, those are going to be the dog owners, and all of them are going to support this, not the people that are living that are being disturbed. I don't work from home, but the people that do work from home or live and are being woken up. So those are factors. Putting a phone number or an email at the park is not going to get a fair representation. And of course, the only people bothered by it are the ones that are facing that way and hearing it. And finally, I want to say that this is a lower income area than much of Chelsea. And again, things are being put in a lower income area where people don't have the time or the money to fight. So I'm done with thinking it shouldn't be there, even though I really feel that way, but the hours are really important that it should be reconsidered. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Barbara?
Barbara.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Barbara. Gosh, thanks so much for having this. I was really excited about it. I think one thing that nobody has mentioned, I've lived in Chelsea many, many years, and I have a grown son now. And one of the things that made me always feel a part of this community was being able to go to the playgrounds, especially the Circle Park, which now they call the Windmill, whatever park. The dog park is a social place. And I think that our community right now needs to be able to build a sense of community more than ever. We have been overrun with homelessness. There has been a lot of gun violence on 9th Avenue as of late. And I think a place where people who live in this community can socialize, can see each other, I think it's a win-win situation. I mean, I understand hours might be tweaked, water, but from what I've seen of living in this community for almost 40 years, that is an area, that alleyway is rarely ever used except by people who are sleeping there. So thanks so much for taking this chance, for trying to do this. And gosh almighty, I hope it works. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. I appreciate your sense of time and your statement.
Shelley?
Hi. Thank you so much for organizing this. I want to say I am a huge supporter of a dog run. I do think that it's an essential need for the community. I understand that there are legitimate concerns on both sides. But as a dog advocate and also advocate for families who have dogs, it really is crucial that they do need to exercise just as much as human children. And it is, I know, a wonderful community builder, just having a dog and connecting with your community that way. So there's, many reasons why it's essential from improving the behavior of dogs, and because they do need to exercise, and because I can't speak to any other options, but as a Penn South resident, I appreciate that it's there, and I'm hoping that it will work. I did generate a petition, which so far I had just over 400 signed in support of the dog park. And I think as far as the trial goes, because there's a lot of things that can be said hypothetically, it really makes sense to have this trial period and see what works and what doesn't. And I know that a lot of people are really excited about it. So I'm hoping that, I know that there's plenty of noise as part of our lives, and not that we want to add to it, but we do need to share resources, and space is always an issue, and noise is always an issue in the city. And some people might be bothered by other sounds and playgrounds or not playgrounds. But the point is that we have to find a way to share the resources and to try to accommodate everyone's needs. And so I just want to say I'm really excited as somebody who feels this is an important need. And I appreciate everything that's been done to try to initiate this trial period. And I hope it succeeds.
Thank you for your comment, Shelley. Appreciate it. Next
Lisa?
speaker is Lisa.
Hi, I just want to say that I am thrilled with this dog park. I live in Penn South in 2A, so I am across the street also. And honestly, I do hear more dogs I don't say more dogs barking, but it's not consistent. If it lasts for just a little bit and then stops, I don't find the noise excessive, and I'm not woken up by the noise. If you're working from home, I am up. But anyway, I just wanted to say I'm thrilled. I'm so glad it's there, and I hope it's permanent. That's it.
That is the best use of time of any speaker tonight. I want to thank you very much and thank you for your comment.
Arnold?
Arnold. Arnold?
I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Good to see you, Arnold Bob.
Something I realized. I think it's great to have this here temporarily.
I'm having trouble hearing you, Arnold.
Let me see if I get close to the mic. I think it was great having it here temporarily. I thought it was great and permanently. But you know something? Where the Chelsea Health Center is, there's a wonderful lawn in front of it that's part of Chelsea Park and doesn't have any buildings around it, and it has grass, and I think this is great for a temporary place, but maybe for the long run, one could look at the lawn in front of the Chelsea Health Center, which is part of Chelsea Park. So I'd just like to throw that in.
Thank you, sir. Your point is that it should be used, Chelsea Park should be used.
No, not Chelsea Park. The Chelsea Park, the Chelsea Health Center lawn, in front of the Chelsea Health Center, which is part of Chelsea Park in some sense, but it's part of the health center also.
Thank you, sir.
I think the last person is Randy.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, thank you. I'm Randy. I've been in New York City for 15 years, and my fiance Kelly and I are lucky enough to have moved to Penn South pretty recently. And we just wanted to say we're very excited about this trial period for the dog run. One thing we've noticed about the neighborhood is that there is a lack of space to bring dogs currently, and a lot of restricted spaces where you can't bring dogs. We've also found in previous neighborhoods we've lived that going to the dog run is an excellent opportunity to meet other members of the community, find other ways to become involved in the community, and really become active as volunteers. And we're excited to do that here. So thank you for the chance to try it out, and we're very hopeful that it will be successful and that everyone will be respectful of their neighbors.
Thank you, sir. And you are number two in good use of time. And since you're the last speaker from the public, I'm going to go back to the committee for comments from you. You've heard, I don't know, I didn't count, but it's more than roughly 20 speakers, many in favor, some against. Help me with the next steps. What are our next steps? Leslie, you want to weigh in?
Sure. I think we've been talking an hour and a half on this, so I think we can wrap it up. But I know listen, I think, why don't we would have to propose some sort of letter if anyone wants to do that. Now, whether we're for or against, I have a feeling we're going to take a vote on that. And then we can go from there if someone wants to propose to write a letter and the vote in support, and then we vote on that. I think then we can delineate whatever items we want to see in that letter.
I have two hands and I'll go to Lowell and then Roberta.
I'm wondering, Leslie, if a letter is really needed here, given that the park is open, that the dog park is now open and operational. Sean's still with us. I would defer to him if their office needs a letter of support.
Well, let me jump in. I think we would write a letter only because there were some concerns that were voiced. So I think we would want to at least put in writing some of the concerns, some of the questions. I don't know if we have to even voice 100% support, but I know some people question the time. Some people question the entrance.
Understood. Yeah. All right. I get that. All right. So then I would make a motion that we write a letter in support that we are happy that this opened on a trial basis only, and list some of the concerns that the members of the community who were in opposition to this raised, so it's on record for when we take this up down the line.
Does anyone want a second, Lowell? I think.
Sally's got her hand up.
To me, the most important thing is, which is, it's again our process. It's a trial. I mean, I don't know when we have to do all these things, after the trial or before the trial. To me, it's a trial, and I would want to, if we're going to write a letter, it should be in support of the trial. And during that trial period, we must consider all the community input that comes out of that trial. So when we go to discuss whether it's going to be made more permanent, all those considerations are taken into account. But what I'm supporting is the trial.
Well, that was the motion I made, Sally, that we say we were happy that they're doing this on a trial basis.
Right. I'm basically seconding you, as long as everybody
Okay.
understands that that's where I'm coming. I think that's what you're saying. And,
Yes.
and I agree with that.
So it's Roberta's turn, and then if necessary, you had a different point, maybe Sally will come back to you.
No, I was simply going to echo Sally's sentiments. I would like the letter, if possible, to say, and you can tell me if you think this captures what you would like to say. We would request that the council member's office just, collect or retain some form of community feedback as to, decide the future of the dog run, whether it exists itself, its hours, the configuration of it, the entrances, et cetera, et cetera. That would be the kind of amendment I would make to Lowell's motion, or addendum.
I'm happy. Am I on mute or am I talking? I'm not
Oh,
sure.
you're talking.
Can't keep track anymore. Roberta, I'm fine with adding that. When I said, raise all of the issues that the people who were in opposition said, that was one of the things we heard repeatedly. To me, it means just putting Jordan's, email address out there on a big billboard somewhere. But we'll go with it from, we'll include that in the letter.
Yeah,
I second that.
I second that. And one other point that was made that I also thought was good, that a sign should be put up notifying people that it is temporary and that it will be considered whatever the end of the trial period is. And yes, again, places for people to raise their voice.
How many? I think I don't see any other speakers. I think one other piece. Oh, I now see three hands. Okay, I got you. Two hands. I'm going to say what I wanted to say anyway. In the letter, I would hope that we would say that there should be a full review of the new design of the park, including the dog run, as that project proceeds. Candace.
Would we include anything about the time? Because people had complaints about the time. If the park is at 9 o'clock, would we want the same time as that? Should we include that in the letter? Do we just go with the trial that they're going with at 8 o'clock, I think was the time?
I don't know that this group has an agreement on the time. I think the 9 o'clock starting time sounds like a reasonable one, and they 7 o'clock closing time? What's the number?
I think right now they said it's 8 to 8, but Therese is on, so maybe she can give us a guideline of what usual dog parks are timed, if you don't mind.
Can I go?
Yeah,
Sure.
please.
I just want to say that, this is not a usual dog park. This is something that was done quickly because the need was really pushed for, and the argument was made that was very convincing, and that we met on site and spoke about it, and that we were able to do it. A lot of that made this possible. And so the hours of a dog run are all varied depending upon, noise levels and things like that in the neighborhood and things. So 8 to 8 currently is what we have set for here. So that is something that may need to be discussed.
Marty, what I would propose for the letter, since it's my motion, is that we say we're okay starting at 8 to 8, but that parks be responsive if there are, serious and a lot of complaints about it. This is a trial. We can try 8 to 8, and if it's not working, we can modify the trial.
Any objection to that wording? Okay, David?
Yeah, I'm very sympathetic to the starting time. I wouldn't want to be awakened every morning at 8 o'clock by dogs. So, one of the speakers, I think it was Karen, suggested a later starting time, and I think that makes sense. But I'd follow Lowell's suggestion that that could be considered as part of the trial, and that we should be indicate receptiveness to public input on that. And even as we've talked about a public education program to avoid having dog poop on the sidewalk, maybe we could post a sign at this location or suggest posting one saying this is a residential neighborhood, please keep your dogs from barking excessively, or something along those lines.
And along the dog poop line, David, Therese, does this have, like other dog parks do, the box with the bags?
Yes.
Our parks do it as well.
No, I know this one has it though, right? This
saw
temporary
bag.
one has. Okay,
I saw that there.
great, thank you.
Today.
So, Marty, if I may, in response to what David was saying, and my thought that this is a trial, by the time this gets to full board at the beginning of May, we'll have had 3 weeks of this park, or 4 weeks since it's been open for a week of having this park open. What I would suggest is that if there are people who are concerned about the hours, that they come to the full board meeting in May, and we can always amend the letter at that point. If there's an overwhelming support for changing the time, we could do it at full board.
Okay.
David, that makes sense to you?
That's a great suggestion, Lowell.
Everybody's agreeing with that. Any other comments about the letter? The letter will say that we are approving it as a trial, that hours and configuration are part of the discussion, that there should be a temporary sign that says it's temporary, and that we are looking forward to an in-depth discussion of the configuration of the park at large. What did I miss?
I would include, I don't know if there were any other specific complaints, but I'll go back through the notes I took. I offered already Marty and Leslie to write this since it was my motion, if you want me to.
I'll be happy to let you do it. I have notes for it also, so.
Okay.
I don't think this is a long one, Lowell. I don't
think it's a long one either.
Yeah.
Lowell, let's do this. If you as you go through your notes, send me the one that the comments that rise to the top,
Yeah.
and I'll write the letter.
Okay. However you guys want to do it.
All in favor? No, wait a minute. Let's go the other way. Any objections?
Wait, I think Therese, did you have your hand up for this, Therese? Yes. Okay, go ahead.
So someone mentioned protecting the trees that are in that area,
Somebody was worried about yeah.
the trees. And then also that I have to fix the gate, but I have that as a mental note. You don't need to add that to a letter.
Tree protection.
Yes.
What about water?
The site has water access from the convent next door.
Well, I walked by it today and there was no water.
Oh, well, it's not accessible to those using the run, so that might need to be added. It's there available for the volunteers to use to clean. There's no agreement yet for how, when, and how often.
How does that work out?
It didn't.
Leslie, I just want to point out Steve has joined us.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, good. He's with us. So let's finish the water conversation. It should be in the letter right now. As I walked by the site today, I saw that there was no water. Therese has just told us that, of course, there's no water. When it's cleaned and volunteers are there, they have access to water from the convent. I think that's the building that's right next to it.
You know what? Sean and Jordan just came on too. I think I talked to Jordan about it, and they said he told me specifically there was a water hookup.
There is not.
I can speak a little more to that. On the convent, there's a water spigot on the front of the convent that is not used currently by the convent or the parish that is there. I have had conversations with Father Pancrose at the parish about it, who let me know that it's not used and that, you know, it's functional. I went there and checked it with Parks, and it is available to be used. So we can, you know, we have a hose that we can hook up to allow water access into the dog run.
How's that going to work, Jordan?
So we can keep the hose in the park, and then volunteers that have reached out to our office can hook that up, connect to that water spigot, turn it on, and then wash down the park there if there's any nastiness or anything like that. And then there is a drainage system in the park as well.
There are two different, I'm going to the dog owner, if I may, Marty, really quick. There are two different needs for water in a dog park. One is to wash the place down. The other is if you need water to, you know, if your dogs are thirsty. And I don't know that we want the hose running all the time for thirsty dogs, or we're going to have a very wet park all the time because people aren't going to shut it off. They're going to leave it dripping. I would propose that the water only be made available to the volunteers to clean the park.
You can't do that.
Yeah, Glenn, I know it's the dogs need water, but I'm just worried that people are going to turn the hose on and leave it running.
Oh, I agree. I agree with you. I'm just saying that you're going to get so many complaints.
So I see two issues here. I see the dog drinking issue, and I see the arranging of the volunteer schedules. And I hope you'll stay on with us, Jordan, and help me weed my way through both of those.
Happy to do so. Yeah. So we've been in conversation with, I think the number now is 22 people who are interested in volunteering for the park. And we're building schedules certainly for people to, you know, make sure that it is maintained and cleaned as well as possible. One of them even sent us a hose to our district office for use. So that's something we can coordinate with our volunteers certainly as well. And, you know, ensure that that hose is put in a place where volunteers can have access to it when they need to use it, and then go from there, certainly.
And Jordan, I know, Alan, I know your hand is up, but Jordan, to your point, I know dog park people take real pride in ownership. Usually the dog parks are kept pretty clean, and they, you know, they take pride in cleaning it themselves and having their dogs in a clean space. So I wouldn't think that would be much of a problem, but that's part of the trial, right? So that would be part of it. And Alan, like I said, I know your hands up. If I just got an email from the head of the school that's adjacent there, you know, the one that's next to the church, and they've said that having the dogs there all week has not been a problem at all for them. So she just sent me an email because I just reached out to her earlier today to ask if she had any comment either way. So just for the record.
And what about drinking water for dogs? Or are we just going to leave that? And I have two. Is the hose going to be protected in some way when the volunteers aren't there? And are you putting out a container or something like that for dogs to drink?
These are all certainly things that we can discuss and see. I think it's helpful that it's a pilot. I'm sure some of the volunteers that we have would be interested in bringing a container for dogs to drink, certainly that we can set something up. I know one of them mentioned, I think they used to have a kiddie pool that they would fill up for dogs to drink water out of. So it can be something that our volunteers, you know, can really take a handle on, making sure that that faucet and that spigot that we have here isn't, you know, overused by anyone who's not here to volunteer for the dog park. And then with the hose, you know, it can be left in the park overnight, or we can find a space, potentially our district office, to leave it or anything like that, certainly. But that's stuff that we'll all figure out.
Thank you, sir.
Yep,
Alan.
of course.
Just to follow up with
Leslie was saying. I think you have a group here that is very concerned about making this work. I think you have a number of responsible folks who really want to see this be a positive experience for everybody. Hoses have an end. You can put something on there to shut it off when it's not in use. And, you know, there's a lot of things that will kind of work its way through as people get used to using this, getting a pail for water to drink out of, maybe getting 2 pails of water to drink out of. So, you know, let it run. It's a test. However this works out, again, we're not talking about a year pilot, which, you know, some places may have. 2 months, hopefully June, July, the other park will be open. Some of these folks may want to stay here. A lot of folks may go over to Chelsea Waterside Park. So there's going to be shifts going back and forth. Give it a shot. Let the folks who are very interested in making this work, along with Jordan, who's been spearheading this, let them work out the kinks, and I think we'll have a very, very positive experience in this whole thing. And I vote yes on Lowell's letter that Marty's going to write.
No.
Lowell's comments.
Lowell wants to write it.
So why don't we? Oh, I thought you wanted it, but okay.
I know. I didn't realize how strongly.
I've been feeling left out since my term as chair ended. I need something to do.
That's right. Give him.
I think you have
I'm
enough
happy for you to put my email in the letter as well. You can blast that out, put it on a billboard, please.
Guys, why don't we just take
your cell phone number, the whole thing, Jordan?
Please.
Why don't we take our vote? All in favor of this letter?
Aye.
Okay. Anyone against?
Yeah.
Anyone against?
We take it that it's unanimous of the people that are here.
Great. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Well, that was a longer discussion than I expected. We have some old business and new business to deal with. There is a discussion of Mayor Adams' cut for park funding. I think maybe we can put that off till the next month, unless there's somebody really that's driving the conversation. And it seemed to me that the styrofoam conversation needed to rise to the top.
We still have the playground, Marty.
Oh.
McCaffrey playground.
I'm sorry. Who's the presenter on that?
That's me.
Elizabeth. Floor is yours.
Keep it brief. And I think this project may have been mentioned at last month's meeting. I wasn't able to make it because I had to be at a meeting, but I'm here to share some information with you about the mural, the basketball court mural at McCaffrey Playground, which is underway now. Unfortunately, the artist couldn't be here this evening. And I did have someone from Project Backboard, who's the organization executing the mural here, but unfortunately they had to leave about a half hour ago. But I can share just information about this and answer any questions you might have to the best of my ability. I am going to share my screen. I just need to make this full screen. Can you all see that?
Oh.
So the name of the artwork is Slice by Andrea Burgart. It's at McCaffrey Playground. We permit all murals, no matter what kind, for 1 year. During that 1 year period, the exhibitor is required to maintain it. So if there's graffiti or any other conditions that arise, that they will maintain it. They use an approved resurfacing material to ensure that the court is playable. I think they put down 2 layers of resurfacing at this court before they added the color coat. As part of our Creative Courts program, any basketball court murals are also tied to a refurb that can be, crack fill and resurfacing, or it can be more intensive with removing asphalt if the court really needs it. As you can imagine, there's a variety of price ranges that this falls in. These projects are all funded by organizations, not parks. Unfortunately, our program does not receive any money from the city for public art. Project Backboard is the organization involved, is the sponsoring organization of this project. Project Backboard, this is what they do essentially. They renovate basketball courts, adding exciting murals to them. They've done these projects all around the country. I'll share some with you, but they work with a lot of players organizations, sports organizations. In this case, the artist herself is very involved in Downtown Girls Basketball, which is a New York all-women basketball community. She's an avid player, so she understands the game, and she does think about playability of the court when she's creating these designs. And I can read a statement from her after I just show you some images. This is the court before an aerial view from Google Maps. This is the rendering of the design, which I believe was shared before. These are past murals that Project Backboard has done. This one is in St. Nicholas Park in Manhattan. This was done last year. And then these are just some samples of murals that they've done in other cities around the country. I'm not sure where the rest of my document just went. There it is. So these are just a couple more. So I can also just share with you just an image of the court that is being done now. It's actually much more vibrant than the original rendering. You can see the lines very clearly defined here. So that is definitely something that they are thinking about when they're putting these murals together. And I can just read a quick statement about the artist and from the artist and her process when creating this. So she says, to develop an image for a basketball court, I begin by making many small drawings that explore ideas I'm currently interested in or images that are stuck in my mind. I draw freely and intuitively, and the images usually begin to guide me to other less familiar possibilities. As the drawings accumulate, some seem more suited to being mural-sized images, and I trust that impulse. In the end, I am searching for an image that can offer an engaged viewer a poignant experience while also acknowledging the strict geometry of a court. And I just wanted to share some anecdotal information that's been shared with me that a lot of people have been really excited about the court that's underway there. And Project Backboard as an organization has found that, these colorful courts do make the basketball courts more inviting to families and women who might not otherwise, feel like a basketball court is a place for them. So that's in a nutshell the project. As far as the selection process, I'm not typically involved in the court selection process. Usually I'm brought in when the mural comes in, but I do believe that sites are shared with exhibitors and organizers, and then they assess what they have the funding to do. So I think that's it, but I'm happy to answer any questions I may have, and I don't know if Therese has anything to add as the regional manager.
Thanks. Yeah, I went there today and I took a picture of it, and it's quite vibrant. There was like 88 teens there today, about 46 of them were girls, and it's coming out very beautifully, and I encourage people to go by and see it.
Leslie?
You said this was temporary?
Yeah, well, it'll be there. It's formally permitted for a year. We wouldn't require anyone to remove it after the year, but if someone wanted to come in and paint a new mural, they could, or if Parks wanted to paint it back to standard colors, they could. But if it's in good condition, it can stay. But again, also after the 1 year, if there's any condition issues, then Parks would retain the right to paint over it.
And you said that, I know you're not involved in how it's picked, but Therese, how is this court picked?
So I believe that it's the condition of the court that makes it possible for the artwork to be there. You know, you can't really fully renovate a court to make art inaccessible. So I think that it's a process of finding the right place that's actually a good fit. And we always need our courts painted. It's costly to get the paint to be able to fully paint a court. So this is an opportunity that we took advantage of. I think there wasn't a lot of time to make a decision on where it would go. And so all of us gave in the different courts that were available to be painted. And it was chosen quite quickly and done quite quickly because of that. And we have the season. So I think the weather also played a part, and the possibility of getting it done was taken advantage of.
Yeah, and part of that too is based on the resources of the organization. I know there's a lot of interest in Penn South Playground, and I've been there, and I definitely think I could use it. But you know, I don't know if the work that's needed there on those basketball courts is more intensive
it is
than what this organization is able to do. But I definitely think it's a great candidate for a basketball court mural, and I think it would do a lot.
That was my next question. It was, you probably have to get an even balance where something that needs a little bit of patchwork, but not so much where it would be prohibitive for the artwork, I guess.
Exactly.
Because that was my next question, because you said in your presentation that this was tied to renovation, at least some sort of renovation. And I was wondering, because we do have, as I keep saying, our statement of district needs, and here is our list of, you know, things that we've asked to be renovated. And why weren't those courts picked? But now I'm guessing that answers my question. It was probably the severity of the need.
Yeah, and we get questions too about just putting a mural on a court that's not in great condition, but there's, you know, associated with that concerns about, you know, is the mural just going to deteriorate quickly afterwards if there's standing water or cracks, or it just might even make, you know, the issue worse.
Leslie, if I could just add one thing, I think what also factored into the selection of McCaffrey Playground is the fact that we've been trying over the last year or so to spruce up this playground and bring more positive attention to it. And I think, you know, it was our feeling that this would be one way to accomplish that, to give it some tender loving care, and to you know, to give people more of a reason to go to McCaffrey and not steer clear of it.
Thanks, Steve. And Therese, did you say you took pictures today while it was going on? Did you?
Yes,
Can you send us? Can you send us some of those? Do you mind?
No, I can send them now.
Okay, thank you.
In exchange for the letter from the principal, the head of the Parents Association, or the principal of the school that you referred to earlier, and we'll send you the pictures in exchange for that letter.
Sure. The email. Oh, the email for the, yeah, right. Sure.
And I also wanted to mention, I think at Penn South, there's more than one court. So like anybody coming in who's thinking there, you can't do just one. You would want both, because then you have one great looking court and then one that's just not great. And I also just wanted to mention, just slightly off topic, speaking of Penn South Playground, we had a banner exhibition that I presented last year with Hudson Guild, with the teen program we had. I don't know how many of you remember that, but that was rescheduled. It'll be in June when the kids are back from, a lot of them have gone off to college. So when they're home, that will be there to brighten the space up a little bit.
Leslie, guide me. What are we doing? What do we need to do about this update for McCaffrey? I think it's just informational.
I think so too. I don't think we need to write a letter. I think it's already being done. I mean, unless anyone on the committee differs with that. I think it was just merely an update, and we appreciate Parks for coming by and doing that. Because when we heard this was happening, some people were like, wait, what, you know, what's going on? But listen, it's a good thing overall. And if everyone agrees with that, I think we can move on, Marty.
And I think, because I see no objections, that we will do just that and say, thank you so much. It's, I actually, a personal opinion, appreciate seeing art in all sorts of places in the city, and this is another one. I'm not a basketball player, so seeing a pretty basketball court is lovely. Thank you, and thank you for your effort on it.
Yeah, no problem. It's about 1 of 2 dozen around the city, so you might see more.
Great.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to styrofoam, or is there? Am I missing something about? I mean, we've got a lot of parks people here, and I don't think it needs to be a long discussion about Mayor Adams' decision to cut funding, but most of the people on this committee are not happy that the mayor has not come up to the 1% that we believe at least should be given to parks. Was there another reason, Leslie, for putting this item on the agenda?
Yeah, I think, and I would like to propose, and we did touch upon this in our budget response letter, as was presented at full board, our last full board. But I mean, I speak for myself, and I hope committee members would agree with me, but we could see. I feel very strongly about this. This was a campaign promise. It was a strong campaign promise. I mean, the mayor, went on to say that he's going to put 1% of the budget to parks. And not only did he not do that, but he's slashing it left and right. And I think that's a huge departure from his rhetoric pre-election. I would like to, again, I know we've touched upon it. It was just one paragraph, though, in our budget response letter. I think I would like to propose that this committee write a very specific letter about that to the mayor, saying how important it is that he honors his commitment and at the very least doesn't slash. I mean, I won't go over all the figures and the charts and the graphs of where the money is going or what he said, where he says it's going and how much we're losing, how much we're gaining. But that would be the gist of the letter.
I think you are in a very good position to write that letter, Leslie, because you know some of the numbers and the charts and graphs, and they should be they should be woven into the letter. I hope I'm not laying something on you you don't want me to do.
No, I can definitely do that. I mean, listen, we have Therese here, we have Steve here. You know, these guys work very hard, and their staffs are getting cut. And anyway, I'm not going to go on a soapbox,
but that's the letter we should write. You're just starting to say it.
Exactly. So anyway, if I would like to make the motion to write that letter.
I second the motion, and I'm happy to help Leslie with it. I'm just as passionate about it as she is.
Absolutely.
And definitely this committee, a letter must come from this committee. We're parks.
This is a seriously important discussion that I don't want to truncate, but I am. Is there any objections to the letter that was just suggested? So I am taking it that you're all in favor of that letter, and it will be written and you will get a chance to see it before you vote on it at the full board.
Yeah, and I also want to thank Sally because she also brought it to our attention that she wanted this done. And I think Roberta has her hand up.
I just wanted to ask a question, Leslie, if we had a element that we wanted you to highlight in your letter, would it be appropriate to email you? Would that be the best way to go about doing that? If I or
100%, I'll include it. 100%.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And with that, unless there's another comment on this, we move to the styrofoam question. And I think Tina's the one that should take this conversation. Don't you, Leslie? Tina, the floor is yours.
Okay, so I'm not sure if any of you noticed over the past couple of years, but I've often noticed small pieces of styrofoam floating through the air or landing in a puddle or on the sidewalk or whatever. And I've always wondered, what is this? It's an environmental problem, obviously, to have styrofoam floating around. Where is it coming from? And I thought it's probably coming from construction. I made a couple of inquiries, didn't go anywhere. But long story short, I have construction on both sides of me. And I noticed an onslaught of styrofoam pellets falling in the sidewalk and the gutter and so forth, and getting swished away when it rains into the gutter. And long story short, what I learned was that the building department has in the past permitted the use of styrofoam being fixed to the exterior of a building. They no longer in these situations, 12 stories and down, require brick siding. Instead, it's some sort of a glass sheeting. And then on top of that goes these sort of maybe 4-inch thick styrofoam panels. On top of that, to finish it off is stucco. In order to affix the stucco to these styrofoam panels, they have to rough it. They have to rough it out so that the stucco sticks. In the process of roughing it out, that's where all these styrofoam pellets get, dislodged and put into the atmosphere. Because they're very light, they travel. My concern is that not only are they, well, my main concern is that they're environmentally unsound. What DOB should have done, I'm sorry, I've seen all the dog going on in the background with nobody but me at home. My apologies. What should have been happening with DOB once they approved such a procedure was some sort of mitigation in terms of how do you capture the styrofoam that's being dislodged and is being scraped away from the larger pellets. That does not exist. So it just goes anywhere. Huge concern. Big oversight, I think, by DOB, the idea being that they will make these buildings more energy efficient. Certainly cheaper, I think, for the developers than putting up bricks and cinder block and all the rest of that. I was kind of shocked when I had 2 buildings on either side and there was nothing between us but this kind of glass sheeting, styrofoam, and a thin layer of stucco. I was like, what is happening with building, at least in these certain, these particular types of buildings? And so what I found out was, to my chagrin, that styrofoam is being used, and with no mitigation efforts to at least absorb it as it's being scraped away, like a vacuum cleaner, to mitigate its airborne qualities. So I just wanted to bring that to people's attention. I am very dismayed because this is just next door to me. There's a lot. I mean, it's in my house. That's okay. I can clean it up. It's in our elevator shaft. Not too great, but more into the gutter as the rain, as it rains and so forth and so on. So yeah, so I just wanted to bring it to people's attention. As the environmental committee, I think we should do a little bit more in that regard. And that's why I'm bringing this to the committee's attention. My understanding is that DOB is reconsidering the use of styrofoam. My question is, what does that mean? What procedures are, being enacted between now and the time when this is replaced by another form of construction? So I think that's in a nutshell. I have some photographs. I'm not sure if they're available to be screened and shared by the office, but I can send those all along if you're interested.
So in an email exchange, I asked you whether your concern was mitigation or elimination of styrofoam. And your response was, and what you've spoken about now is mitigation in the sense that you're capturing whatever styrofoam waste is created by the construction project.
Yeah, I think
you seem to indicate that buildings is thinking about eliminating styrofoam, but we don't know that, do we?
No, we don't have much information on that, and we need to speak to the agency to respond to us in terms of the use of this particular form of construction material. And and what can be done between now and the time it's replaced by another stipulation for developers. Because certainly
So
the
let's
current
let Brad and then Roberta speak, and then figure out where we go with this. Brad.
Yes, so obviously I do this quite a bit. I reached out to my guys, and they do, and they're supposed to, when they are scraping that down, they are supposed to have a collective sand. So it's kind of like when you're sanding a floor and the dust goes into a container. It's the same idea. So as they sand it down, it's supposed to be put into a bag so it's not going everywhere. Obviously, that's not 100% foolproof, but they should be doing it. And it sounds like the buildings next to you, they're not doing that at all. They're just doing the free form, and it's falling everywhere. And then I also inquired, I said, there's got to be a better way. And it turns out there is. There's a little denser board they can use, and it's a dark color, and it drops. It doesn't go floating off into the air. It stays contained off the wall, which allows for a better cleanup and not such an environmental impact. Because I agree with you. I think it is a problem. It just floats right into the sewer. It goes everywhere. It is standard practice for this type of product. It's basically on every side of a building that you can't see. That's usually what they do. There's been some changes in the product because insurance companies were not approving it. These sides are heavily inspected for waterproofing and sign off for the warranties. And I just think it's a matter of some enforcement on using the right tools to capture the material.
Great. That's wonderful. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you, Brad.
I called my guy up right after I spoke to you because, believe it or not, it was happening all over me. So I know what you're talking about.
Before Roberta goes, Tina, do you know who the builder has your building or your people contacted who the builder or who the construction manager is, or has there been any communication?
I actually, I'm on good terms with the new project manager, and yeah, I wanted to. This is sort of new, and I wanted to bring it to the board as soon as possible because, hey, time is of the essence. It's our environment. So this information from Brad is really very helpful, and I'll bring it to the project manager's attention and see where I get from there. But this is just one instance of what's going on throughout the 5 boroughs.
Yeah. Same old word, enforcement. They know what they're supposed to do and they don't do it.
Roberta, you're up.
Yeah.
They're not using the right tool.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate the discussion of this issue and would be really interested in hearing what DOB has to say. It is clear that when the city can pass all sorts of regulations and when it doesn't have adequate enforcement, I think is probably something to talk about from a budgetary standpoint. Then it can't do its job in enforcing those regulations. And I mean, pretty much every agency's budget is on the chopping block. I don't have information on DOB inspections, but that certainly could be a place to look. I'd love to hear from DOB to hear kind of what might be on the table there. I would hope if we do decide to write a letter to just recognize that foam insulation, and Brad, feel free to weigh in if you think that I'm wildly out of line here, is probably one of the most energy efficient ways to insulate a home. It's very clear that there are better practices to go about doing this, but if we want our buildings to help meet our energy efficiency goals as a city, it'll likely be necessary for us to utilize some form of a foam. It's just a question of, does it have to be something that leaches these tiny little polystyrene particles into the air and the water, and leave us with microplastics? And so I think just kind of working on the nuance.
Yeah, the microplastic issue is the one that pops to the front of my mind. Thank you, David.
Yeah, Brad, it sounds to me like what we're talking about is EIFS or EIFS, Exterior Insulation Finishing System. And ordinarily that would have between the styrofoam and the stucco a fiberglass mesh that the stucco bonds to. It sounds to me like they're cutting corners with the system. Is that your understanding?
They grind it down for that to attach. So I literally went through it with them. It's an EIFS or a stow system, correct, David?
Right, but if they use
and
the
I
mesh,
asked him, I said, are you using the tool? Because I'm on the environmental board and this is a real problem. And he goes, yes. So there is, it's kind of like a sander that sucks in the foam. And to the last point, yes, it's related to the energy checks now that they do, and they take very serious, as David knows. It's a big compliance now of all buildings. It's a totally separate inspection, and it is related to the R value of the building. They take it real serious, no playing around.
I would guess that the construction code includes protections against the escape of hazardous materials from construction techniques. So that these are probably laws that are already in place. Is that your understanding, Brad?
Yeah, I just like anything, you can't have stuff flying off the buildings. And I just think this is something that maybe is not on the forefront, and maybe we can get it there.
Sounds good.
That's what we need to focus on, how to get it there. Candace?
I was thinking, like, would we write something to DOB to ask them what their enforcement is for this kind of situation? Because if there's a code for it, you can't have material just flying off a building. And that's what's happening here. So, I mean, 311 would be something you could call and have them, DOB, come and check out and see if there's any other safety stuff they are not doing, and it could shut down the job site to make them do it properly. So maybe if we could have somebody from DOB give us that information, if they're, how much is this enforcement being done?
They're going to tell you.
Or maybe have DOB come and discuss with us the measures that they're taking for energy efficiency, the pros and cons, the procedures, and why something like this should not be happening.
So I think that's exactly one of the elements that we need to, there's the specific site that seems to be out of compliance with what we believe to the laws to be, and that might entail a 311 call. And there's our general lack of knowledge about what the insulation systems that Brad and David were just talking about, and how they are managed, and how what the rules are to prevent those things from going into the environment. And that might require, at a minimum, an administrative letter going to DOB asking the question, and maybe more generally an invitation to DOB to come and explain it to us. And I'm not sure which one of those choices I'm most comfortable with. I'm going to throw it at Leslie.
I was going to defer to the committee. I think it's a huge, if we're going to go into it, I think it's a very big discussion. I mean, I think to Tina's immediate problem, I definitely think 311, as Candace suggested, would be it. And, listen, sometimes they're effective, sometimes they're not. It's kind of hit or miss with 311. This seems like one specific instance where, as Brad said, like someone is not in compliance. And that's just troubleshooting. If we do want to put this as a big topic of the environmental or ways to green buildings, or different ways. I mean, that's a very, we can whittle that down on how we want to attack that, because we can go in a million different directions and get a lot of speakers, and that can definitely also be on a future agenda once we kind of edit that down on what exactly we want to talk about.
I mean, just to be clear, I'm not concerned about my particular situation. It's just an example. I mean, they're basically finished. So it was more of like, wow, I've been wondering about these things. Now it's right here. I can see it. 6 feet away. So my particular situation is just an example that's sort of alerted me to, now I understand where these pellets are coming from. And if it's happening here, we have 5 boroughs. That's a lot of polystyrene,
You know what? Roberta hit the nail on the head. There are so many laws and regulations and then it really amounts to a hill of beans if no one is coming to enforce them, right? I mean, we've asked, I can't believe I'm referring to this document again, in our statement of district needs that, please enforce this, please enforce that, please give us a budget to enforce landmarks. We need more money for that. We need money for this. And if you have this law on the books, what good is it if you don't put a budget or money to enforcing it? So I think it would just be how many people can they get, in one place to look at all this construction and check mark each box.
I want to
So
acknowledge
you're
that
right.
Steve Simon has turned on his video, and it's the first time we've seen him in a while. So hello, Steve.
It's always good to see Steve.
I don't need to be acknowledged.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. And then but I'm going to move on to Sally anyway.
Yeah, I to how we approach this, I think we should do both. I mean, I think it seems to me that we have 2 knowledgeable members here. I'm going to take a leap of faith and say that David and Brad know what they're talking about. And I would say that recommend we write a letter to DOB. It is our understanding that, and if this is not correct, and if it is correct, what are we going to do about it? If it's not correct, we invite you to come and speak to the environmental committee about what the process should be and what the enforcement should be, and give us a better understanding of it. But I think we should state right up front what Brad and David are saying is the case, and let them defend themselves or correct it if we're wrong, but let them come and talk to us. That's my my motion.
Roberta?
In addition to that motion, I would just recommend as a future topic of discussion, specifically your buildings enforcement here, and specifically buildings enforcement for local law 97. I've mentioned this to Leslie, I think, before, and I'm hopeful that in the next couple of months we can perhaps get something on the agenda to talk specifically about energy efficiency in buildings, and I think the way that it relates to this, as well as the way that Department of Buildings and other city enforcement agencies relate to buildings' ability to safely and energy efficiently.
So that raises a whole other set of issues, and I'm trying to figure out what kind of a letter we can write to, or who we can ask from the Department of Buildings to come speak with us. The issue of waste coming out of a building, particularly styrofoam particles, was what this conversation started with, and what Roberta just started to talk about were the emission standards that come out of local law 97, which is a whole huge other can of important fish.
Please disregard it for this evening. I do not want to draw us off topic at this point in the evening. My sincere apologies, Marty.
I want you to chair the committee. That's a good line. Thank you. A letter to, I think we need, maybe Leslie and I need to talk about this offline. We need to think of who we can invite to speak with us. And actually, David and Brad may have some suggestions for us, who we should invite to come speak to us about this issue. And then present that to you, what we found out at next month. Anyway, that's where I'm sitting. I would go to Brad and David and then Leslie. David, you've got your hand up, so you win.
Yeah, Tina, did you file a complaint with 311?
No.
No, I didn't, because I really didn't understand. I didn't have a good understanding of the situation, actually. So I did not.
Yeah, I'm just wondering where that leaves us in terms of the platform for the letter. We're not objecting because it wasn't enforced. So how do you even start out writing the letter?
Well, the letter might say that it is our understanding that a constituent noticed these particles coming off the building, and yet that building is completed and there's been no complaints filed against that committee, against that building. Nevertheless, it is a concern of Community Board 4 about the way waste is handled in construction sites. Could we have a tutorial or something on that order?
Sounds good.
Marty, I would actually suggest that this is not a letter and that's just an email to them saying, just as
It's an administrative letter or administrative
I would just
note.
say it's let's just, we could do administrative, but just an invite. Hey, we're interested in this topic. It was ignited by a personal experience from a member on our board. We want more insight on this. And then we can kind of give them the framework of what we want to talk about.
I'm sure they have a community liaison.
Yeah.
That's who I would probably reach out to.
David? I mean, Brad? Brad, your hand's up, right? You want to say something?
Yeah, sorry, Marty. Yeah, I agree. Administrative letter and just say, what we want to know about how the compliance is regarding the exterior material, how it's handled.
Come speak to us.
Also, I don't know if we're on new topics yet. I'll wait for that.
Yeah, wait, because I think this is finished, but I think we're talking about an administrative letter with a request to come speak to us about compliance about construction, particularly styrofoam. Okay, thank you. Brad, you had something else to raise. I want to point out to you it's 9 o'clock, Brad, but go ahead.
No, mine's real quick. I was at the Jeffrey's Meatpacking District bid meeting this morning, and Google, I can't call it Google, the Google Pier, that community space that they had made available, they're looking for stuff to program that free space. So I'm just letting everybody know on the committee that they put that out there today.
Pier 57.
Correct.
Who should we contact?
We can talk to ACES for that.
Okay.
We can forward it to ACES. Thank Brad. That's awesome. We can forward it to Alan. Where's Alan? He's here, isn't he? Alan and Kit.
Alan may not have heard that. Did he? Yes, he did. Did you hear the last comment about Pier 57, Alan? About programming for Pier 57? Okay.
Alan, I'll just, if we just talk offline about that, I have a few ideas that may or may not be of interest to Google.
Great. Does anyone else have new business? If
I see Teresa's hand. Yeah, go, please.
Just quickly, we're going to have Chelsea Parks basketball court and exercise area renovated beginning in May on the 23rd, which is a long-awaited and welcomed change. We did have a mural there before, if you remember. It was a Facebook mural, and now it's going to be fully renovated, fully done surface and new safety surface, game tables, benches, fences, and exercise equipment. So it's really long awaited and really welcomed. And it's coming in May. It's scheduled to be done in the summer of 23.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Thank you.
You put a dog run in there?
Don't start.
I'm kidding. I would like to make a motion to end the meeting.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long meeting. Thank you for your attention. There's an administrative letter and a Lowell Kern letter coming out of this meeting.
And there's also a letter about the parks budget.
And one about the parks budget. So 3 items.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Bye, guys. We have also a tax agenda next time.
Bye all. Be well.
Bye. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.